Command, this is Squad 7. We're pinned down. The whole damn platoon is gone. They're just picking through the ruins now. Williams is pulling us out, but there are others here. Not Alliance. Some kind of Black Ops unit. Specialists. They're not retreating. They're moving towards them. Who the hell are these guys?
They were ghosts. Even then. Operating in the shadows the Alliance was too scared to look into. You've heard the stories. The whispers in the dark corners of the Citadel. The boogeyman the Council uses to frighten its children. Cerberus. But every ghost was once a man, and every monster believes himself a savior. Today, we open a file that has been sealed for decades. We trace the phantom to its source, before the starships and the secret labs, before the tailored suit and the chair overlooking a dying star, there was only the man, a mercenary named Jack Harper. This is the autopsy of how a patriot becomes a monster. Welcome to the network. The year is 2157. Humanity, clumsy and arrogant, has tripped a galactic wire. Our expansion through the Karen Relay was seen not as exploration, but as an invasion. The Turians, the galaxy's self-appointed peacekeepers, responded with overwhelming force. They called it the Relay 314 incident. We called it the First Contact War. On the colony of Shanxi, humanity learned a brutal lesson. The galaxy does not reward ambition, it punishes it. The Systems Alliance military, outmaneuvered and overwhelmed, was in full retreat. For the colonists left behind, it was a death sentence. Not all of humanity's defenders wore an Alliance uniform. My network's archives of the Shanxi campaign are extensive. Visual logs recovered from the wreckage show a 3-person mercenary team operating with lethal efficiency behind Turian lines. Their leader was Jack Harper. Cool, analytical, a pragmatist in a war fueled by emotion. His squad was a microcosm of the human condition. At his side was Eva Correa, a professional, focused, deadly. And then there was Ben Hislop, a munitions expert whose rage was a weapon in itself. He wasn't fighting for territory or politics. He was fighting for revenge. His brother was among the colonists the Turians had wiped out. Hislop's fury was a blunt instrument, useful but imprecise. Harper, however, saw a bigger picture. During one engagement, they captured a high-ranking Turian officer. Hislop, seeing only the face of the enemy that killed his family, was ready to execute him on the spot. But Harper intervened. His words, recovered from Eva Corey's own comm log, are the key to understanding the man he was.
Stand down, Ben. I can't interrogate him if he's dead. Intel first.
Intel first. Not vengeance, not even victory. Knowledge. That was his prime directive. It was the core principle upon which he would later build an empire of shadows. He believed knowledge was the only true shield humanity had against a hostile galaxy. This wasn't just a mission, it was the birth of an ideology. He used this ideology to manipulate everyone around him, including the Alliance itself. General Williams, grandfather to the commander's future ally, Ashley Williams, was the ranking officer of the Shanxi withdrawal. He was a good soldier, but he was tired, frustrated, and facing defeat. Harper saw an opportunity. He presented Williams with fragmented intel, pointing out that the Turian search patterns weren't tactical. They weren't hunting survivors. They were looking for something else. Harper played on the general's pride, on his anger at being forced to retreat. He convinced Williams to give his specialists 20 hours, an APC, and carte blanche to operate outside the chain of command. It was the first Cerberus operation, even if it didn't have a name yet. A small, deniable cell, funded by official resources working towards a goal the establishment was too blind or too cowardly to pursue. Sound familiar? With the captured Turian officer, a general named Decius Arterius, in tow, Harper's ruse was simple but effective. He used the general's own encrypted comms to lure a Turian patrol into an ambush, dividing their forces. He then followed the remaining signal to a network of caves, deep in a sector the colonists had never even settled. What he found there changed everything. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't a secret base. It was a temple, and at its heart, an artifact. Visual logs show a massive dark monolith humming with a strange energy, held in place by heavy chains. Alien, ancient, and utterly terrifying. Decius and his men weren't on a military operation. This was an archaeological dig, or perhaps a pilgrimage. But they weren't the only ones there. From the shadows emerged figures that were Turian, but not, larger, stronger, hooded and silent. My analysis of their physiology, cross-referenced with later Cerberus data, confirms they were early products of Reaper indoctrination. The Turians called them Metaturians. They were husks, guardians of the monolith. Also, the fight was brutal. The creatures were impossibly strong, shrugging off pistol fire. Harper realized his comms were jammed. Something in the cavern was blocking all signals. It was then that Ben Hislop made a fatal mistake. Thinking he could shut the artifact down, he reached out and touched it. The monolith discharged a massive surge of energy. It tore through Hislop's body, killing him instantly. A secondary blast threw Harper across the cavern, knocking him unconscious. When the war ended, Harper was recovered by the Alliance, but the man who returned from Shenxi was not the same. The artifact's energy hadn't just stunned him, it had rewired him. His eyes, they were the most obvious change. The irises were no longer human. They were a cold, calculating cybernetic blue. A permanent scar from his glimpse into the abyss. This change and his newfound ability to understand the indoctrinated Turians earned him a covert mission from a disillusioned General Williams. He and Eva Corey tracked Decius Arterius, who had taken the monolith, which he called the Arca Monolith, off-world. Not to the Turian homeworld, but to the corporate-controlled Asari planet of Ilium. There, he established a research facility to continue his work. On Ilium, they discovered the truth. Ben Hislop was not gone. Decius had recovered his body, and the monolith had repurposed him. But their investigation was cut short. They were discovered ambushed by Decius's forces. This time, there was no escape. Harper and Eva Corey were taken as prisoners. They, along with the husked remains of Ben, were transported to the Turian homeworld, Palaven. Here, in a grand temple, Decius planned to use the Arca Monolith to evolve his entire species. Harper discovered he could decipher the ancient glyphs in Decius's temple. The monolith hadn't just given him a psychic link, it had downloaded information directly into his mind. He discovered the truth. The Arca Monolith was a trap, a devolution device as he later called it. It didn't elevate species. It transformed them into controllable puppets. It was a warning beacon, designed by the Reapers to alert them to the presence of advanced civilizations, and a tool to enslave them before they could become a threat. The climax was a tragedy. Saren Arterius, Decius's own brother, arrived to confront him over his fanaticism. In the ensuing confrontation, Dessalus released the transformed Ben. Compelled to protect the monolith, the husk struck down Eva Kore, killing her. In that moment, Jack Harper lost everything. It was Saren who ended it. The transformed Ben, in a final, agonized moment of rage after striking Eva, tackled Dessalus. The two of them, the monster and its creator, were thrown directly into the Arca monolith. Seeing the truth in Harper's warnings, and with his brother lost to the artifact's power, Saren made a choice. He contacted his ship and ordered them to open fire on the temple, burying the monoliths, his brother, and the husked remains of Ben Hislop under a mountain of rubble. Saren walked away believing he had contained a bioweapon. Jack Harper walked away with a new, terrible purpose. He had seen the true face of the enemy, and he had seen humanity's weakness. He believed, with every fiber of his being, that the Alliance, the Council, none of them were prepared. Only he knew the truth. Only he could protect humanity. He had to become a ghost, a power in the shadows, unburdened by laws or morality.
Log 734. The subject's transformation is accelerating. The nanites are rewriting his neural pathways. He's listening to something. Something from dark space. The elusive man believes we can control it. He believes we can harness this power for humanity. I am no longer certain.
The man named Jack Harper died on Palaven, buried under rock and regret. From the ashes, a phantom emerged. He began disseminating a manifesto across the human extranet. It spoke of alien threats, of humanity's untapped potential, of the need for a new kind of strength, unchained by council law. The Alliance, unable to trace the source, dismissed it as the ramblings of some elusive man. The name stuck. He founded Cerberus, not as a terrorist group, but as the logical endpoint of his new philosophy: humanity first, last, and always. The cost was irrelevant. The name itself is a clue. Cerberus, the three-headed hound that guards the gates of the underworld in ancient human mythology, preventing the dead from escaping. A fitting metaphor for a man who believed he was holding back the apocalypse. He built his organization on a foundation of shadows and secrets. Its structure was cellular. Each project, each team was isolated. Operatives in one cell knew nothing of the others, a perfect system for plausible deniability. When a Cerberus lab experimenting on Thorian creepers or Rachni was discovered by the Alliance, the elusive man could simply cut the cell loose, branding them rogue extremists. It was a lie, of course. My network's financial traces show a clear, centralized command. He personally oversaw every major project, and the funding? He was a master of capital. He established front corporations. The most prominent was Cord Hislop Aerospace, a starship manufacturer, a touching tribute to the friends he lost, Eva Kore and Ben Hislop. Their names forever attached to the machine that grew from their sacrifice. His focus was singular: advancing humanity's power. And he identified the next great frontier: biotics. The Book of Ascension provides a clear window into his early methods. He took a keen interest in the Ascension Project at Grissom Academy, a program designed to help gifted human biotics. To him, these children were not people. They were assets, strategic weapons to be developed. His primary target was a young, autistic girl with unprecedented biotic potential. Her name was Gillian Grayson. The elusive man didn't just want to study her, he wanted to improve her. He inserted his own agents into the project, a researcher named Jiro Toshiwa, a father figure named Paul Grayson. Their mission was to administer untested drugs and experimental treatments, piggybacking Cerberus research onto the Alliance's work. It was subtle, patient, a long-term investment in creating the perfect human weapon. This is the philosophical schism, the point where protecting humanity became perfecting humanity. He was no longer a shield. He was a scalpel, willing to cut away any part of the species he deemed weak or unworthy, all in the name of his vision for the future. He saw a galaxy of threats, and his solution was to make humanity the greatest threat of all. But his interest in biotics was more than just strategic. It was personal. My network has just flagged a priority message from a deep cover asset. Stand by.
Roker, it's the same energy signature, the pattern from the Leviathan artifact. It matches the early Cerberus biotic research on Gillian Grayson. They weren't just enhancing them. They were trying to replicate the Shanzi effect. They were trying to build their own elusive men. Oh gods, they didn't know what they were doing.
As I suspected, he wasn't just recruiting assets. He was trying to recreate the conditions of his own birth, the Patriot becoming a god. Or so he thought. He was chasing his own ghost. If the Ascension Project was the elusive man dipping his toes into the abyss, the events detailed in the novel Retribution show him diving in headfirst. This is the culmination of his doctrine, the end justifying any means. After Commander Shepard destroyed the Collector base, the elusive man salvaged the remains of the human Reaper. He wasn't just studying Reaper technology anymore, he was going to replicate it. He needed a human test subject, a volunteer. His choice was Paul Grayson, the same operative he had tasked with raising the biotic Gillian. Grayson had betrayed Cerberus, helping Gillian escape their clutches. For the elusive man, this was a perfect confluence of opportunity and revenge. He dispatched his top assassin to retrieve him, a man named Kai Leng. Leng is the perfect embodiment of the new Cerberus, a former N7 Marine, imprisoned by the Alliance for his extreme anti-alien violence. The elusive man saw not a criminal, but a patriot. He freed him, honed him, and turned him into a weapon of pure, fanatical loyalty. Grayson was captured and taken to a secret Cerberus facility. What they did to him there is an atrocity. They didn't just experiment on him, they experimented with him. They implanted him with self-replicating Reaper nanites. They forced his body to become a host, a vessel for the Reaper's consciousness, so they could study the transformation, so they could learn how to control it. The elusive man's solution was to become them, to sacrifice a human being, to twist him into a synthetic organic hybrid, a monster, all to gain an edge. This wasn't about protecting humanity anymore. It was about dominating the forces of the universe. It was hubris on a galactic scale. And this is where the final piece of the puzzle clicks into place, the truth that the elusive man himself never saw. He was never in control. From the moment he was exposed to the Arca monolith on Shangxi, he was being indoctrinated. It was a slow burn, decades long. The Reapers are patient. They played on his patriotism, his fear, his ambition. They fed his belief that humanity was special, that he was special. They whispered the idea that their technology could be controlled, that it was the key to humanity's ascension. His entire crusade was a lie. He thought he was fighting the Reapers. In reality, he was their most effective agent. He sowed chaos. He divided the galaxy's forces. He created an army of indoctrinated soldiers. He built a human Reaper. He was the ultimate inside man, a puppet who believed he was the puppet master. He saw himself as a kingmaker, a visionary guiding humanity to its destiny. But he was just a ghost, a phantom created by a battlefield trauma and an alien signal, haunted by the friends he lost and twisted by the very enemy he swore to destroy. The file is now closed. Jack Harper the Patriot died on Shanxi. The elusive man, the Monster, died on the Citadel, a deluded slave to the masters he thought he could control. A tragic figure, perhaps. A cautionary tale, certainly. But do not make the mistake of thinking his influence died with him. His ideas, his methods, his ghost, they linger. In the dark corners of the galaxy, there are always those who believe the end justifies the means, who believe strength is the only virtue. The question you must ask yourself is, when you look into the abyss, what looks back? Stay vigilant. Monitor this frequency. The network is watching.